Welcome to the Rubber Onion Animation Podcast. We are fueled by an active community here, so if you want to participate, Rubber Onion is one word, I'm everywhere, and the hashtag is Rubber Onion Podcast. Use those and we'll see you. Everything else you can find on the website. I'm animator Stephen Brooks. I'm the Rubber Onion. My co-host is fellow animator Rob Yulfo. This is a Hot Cocoa Show. It's a topic episode. Let's do this.
I'm Don Bluth.
I'm Harry Partridge.
Hi, I'm Tom Moore, teenage superhero.
My name's Adam Phillips.
This is Robert Valley.
And I'm in no way doing a forced plug. No, sorry. I won't say that.
Definitely go for that. And you're listening to...
Now, do you remember way back in the year 2019?
I do.
Life was pretty good. I mean, we still were under the thumb of Trump. However...
Tiny thumb.
Tiny little thumb. And, but we still had friendship. We had gatherings where we could all go to a bar and just drown our sorrows away. We thought it really can't get any worse than this. And you know what? I decided not to let that take over. And I knew 2020 was arriving. There was hopes of maybe impeachment. There was other elements in life where I said, I'm going to leave my job after 13 years. And I think I'm going to make the dive into working a network, animated related network job or, freelance as well. Very much inspired by your lifestyle, which you had left because you were a freelance animator and moved on to working in-house in a studio.
Yeah, working in an office.
And
very
it was
strange.
Always something like I always admired that. I always admired the freelance lifestyle. And I didn't think I can do it. And for many years, you pushed me to do it.
Aggressively.
Yes.
Pushed you.
Going to all these animation events and seeing this happen. But then having to return to this, 9 to 5 job that I had. I said, I'm going to do it. This was also around the same time that I was going to get married. So I also tell Leanne, I'm like, listen, there's going to be a huge change in career mode, and I'm gonna have to make some sacrifices, and I know it's probably not the best time to do this, but trust me, 2020 is going to be great.
You can't get to the end of that sentence without going into Homer. This does feel like Homer territory.
So
everything's going to be great. Everything's going to work out. You're feeling good. You're quitting. You're moving. This sounds delightful, Rob. This sounds delightful.
It was. I got to work at a studio. I had the pleasure of telling my job that I've been kind of miserable at, that I was leaving, and I got to be amongst my people, animators, big groups.
Yeah.
After work, going to the bar, hanging out.
Not just with me anymore.
Yeah.
Now we got more people.
Yeah.
Like flypaper. We just moved through that studio like flypaper, just collecting a group of animators and going out and having fun. That was
Now, one unique aspect about the show we were working on, is it's definitely not a permanent show because it's about a president. So once I started working there,
are you avoiding saying the title of the show?
Oh,
people know what you were working on.
40 minutes later, okay, it was Our Cartoon President.
Yeah,
which was on Showtime, and great time working there. Of course, that was one of the main factors that you're worried about. Is just a show either being canceled or just ending, and then what do? That's when I decided I'm going to do freelance.
So meanwhile, all that's going on. You're setting yourself up quite nicely in 2019. I was shifting between things. The aforementioned show that you're talking about, like I moved on. I got another gig. We're leading ourselves up. That's the end of 2019. Come 2020, beginning of 2020, we're about to have our launch. Episode 1, our premiere. It's going to be on March 14th or 15th. I forget which day it was. Something like that. That's what we were going to have. So you're working in the office. You got like all this thing. You got your new career. You're engaged. I got a new job. We're about to premiere this new show, and then cue sound effect.
Dun dun dun. Dun.
I mean, obviously, everyone. This is what everyone experienced. But, we kind of went through it, working from home. The show, Tuning Out the News, still launched and still was, I was going to say on the air, but it was CBS All Access, and our cartoon president was shifting and working from home and everything. So all that was going fine. And then now we're still working from home. The season for our cartoon president has ended, and you shifted to
Freelance animation.
Freelance animation, which makes this setup. I have a studio job, and you are freelance.
Yeah. It's almost like that movie.
Spectacular Saturday. Stupendous Sunday.
Average Tuesday.
Monumental Monday. Weird Wednesday.
Oh my God. Yes. I miss gatherings.
Thirsty Thursday? No.
Those are my thirst traps posts that I do on my stories.
Freaky Friday.
Oh,
this is a Freaky Friday episode.
Who would have imagined that was the world we would have wound up in?
I know. So you were the whole premise of this is that you used to work in an office. We talked about this a bunch. You used to work in an office. I was full-time freelance for like 13 years.
Yeah.
And then I'm working in an office, and okay, so I'm not working in an office now, but it's quote office job. And you have been doing so much freelance. I mean, you had, I don't know, it was like 6 jobs going simultaneously, online series and music video and helping out with these, Instagram things. And you have a lot of stuff going on. It's actually really nice to see.
It was it's still very nice because sometimes I'm still trying to catch up with some other some last minute freelance things. It's very much like a squirrel gathering nuts for the winter. That is
exactly what freelance is.
It's just like I gotta keep doing it. I gotta keep that budget level, Even if it's jobs that are just paying for groceries, you're just getting things here and there just to kind of like collect. It's always about collecting.
I mean, it really is like your story about quitting your job and then starting a new career in animation and getting engaged and everything. And, the other thing that people on the podcast know that your fiance is in the UK. So like, hey, You know what makes it harder? Travel bans.
Oh yes, and to some degree, I feel like I kept booking myself more and more just to keep my mind off of what was going on around me.
Oh, you gotta.
And it's just like it's overbooking. It's weird because like to some degree I liked freelance because I could make my own schedule. And that's what you think. But really, your schedule is just all over the place. And when you're not working, you have this guilt going on.
How many times? I mean, what was the year that I did? It's like 5 years ago. I did this whole series on the first 4 years of your freelance animation career, like how to start, and there's the ebook is still up there. You may buy it. I was gonna say you can buy it. You can buy it. You may buy it. I give you permission to buy it.
Which book is this?
It's How to Be a Successful Freelance Animator. How to Start a Successful Freelance Animation Business, I believe is what I called it. It's very long, but it's hey, good for SEO. But it's an ebook. It's basically the blog posts that I have are kind of the primer, and then the ebook has more in it than was on the blog post. So I go into more detail in the ebook, and it's kind of formulated in the way that it's not just what to do in your first year, second year, third year, fourth year, which is the way that I organize the blog posts and organize the episodes, but it's more about really how do you formulate the thing and what are the pitfalls and what are you coming in on. This isn't really an ad for it, but the point is like the amount of time that the amount of times in the podcast that I have said that exact thing, that it's not necessarily that there's no time, or there's no time frame, there's no time restriction, which is true, but everything you do is ASAP, because especially if you're getting paid by per project. So if you get this project and they say, okay, it's $1,000 to do this one thing, right? Then if you do it in a week, you got $1,000 for that week. But if it takes you 2 weeks to do it, then your rate has now gone down to $500 a week, right? It's a huge difference. The faster you do it, the higher your effective per hour rate becomes. And the time that it takes you to do something is directly relevant to the amount of money that you're going to get, because you can only get money for things that you do. Which makes sense. This is what capitalism is.
Yeah.
But it does mess with your mind a bit. It changes things like vacations. It changes things like personal time. It's almost like one thing that I have noticed a lot in let's say the younger generation. I mean, I don't really feel. I'm 38 now, but I don't feel. I still feel like. Yeah, I'm young. No, not really. No, there's a crew that's coming up behind us that are in their early 20s, and boy, that is like the generation of self-care. Like they really take care of themselves.
Yeah.
To a point, I think it's really good. To another point, I think, like, okay, but you're going to also have to find a balance between that and some form of work ethic, because
take care of themselves as far as like what, like
as far as giving themselves time, buying things for themselves, vacation, like not working past hours or things like that. Obviously, you want to respect yourself, you want to respect your time, and that's been an ongoing struggle in my life, and I think our life, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's just our generation, but the whole self-care thing was not really something I think that we kind of came around on. I mean, it was largely called lazy.
But we were also kind of coached into like saying, internships and work hard to get what you want. Like, not that they're not working hard, but it was just like, even if it's like, that this client is taking advantage of you, you're kind of working up to that thing, So it's just like, oh, when I started this job, I was a custodian there. Now I'm the CEO of blah 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 headquarters or something,
And to be clear, I think that generation that I'm talking about looks at us and goes, yeah, if that worked, you'd be the CEO, right? So I think basically what they're doing is they're learning from us and going, oh, so you went to college and you have this much debt. So it's you thought that you were going to be able to get this job and you were going to be able to buy a house, but then there's housing crisis, and the minimum wage hasn't gone up in like easily a decade. I don't know what the actual number is, but healthcare is still exactly where it is, and it caused a gigantic turmoil in the entire country just to give just super basic foundational healthcare, like can't be dropped for pre-existing conditions or can't be refused for pre-existing conditions. Just that somehow broke people's brains and tore us apart, and so they're looking at stuff like that and going, yeah, I think I'm going to have to do this for myself. So I don't want to speak ill about the self-care thing. I really like that, and I think that it sets a good precedent if everyone kind of comes in, because even if like it's like almost collective bargaining by default. No matter what the situation in your job is, if everyone is kind of socially on the same page and they're like, no, I don't think I'm gonna take this work home with me, or I think it's unreasonable to do this kind of thing, then business can't just like force that on you, because the whole point of business being able to get away with that is just say, well, this other person's doing it, and of course they're going to get rewarded for the extra work that they're doing and not getting, so I want to be careful about like stepping on that, because obviously I think self-care is very good. We're, big proponents of that here. As a freelancer who, was doing it without a degree and who was, constantly moving around, and then got my first big break like right before the financial collapse. So it like basically nilled that out. Like it that just completely went away. And then I'm just holding on for dear life. So there was a lot of stuff like that. You got to scratch and claw and like fight your way to a kind of a middle ground.
Yeah.
There is a thing that's in the back of my brain. And what we're talking about with freelance is like the idea that you can't turn down work. And even if that client is pushing you to some level, of course, I like being able to fire my clients. But you do look at them on a case-by-case basis and be like, yeah, I know you're taking advantage of me, but I think I can get this little bit out of it and just get it done and throw that out there, get a little bit of money and move on to the next one.
Yeah, and there are clients that like you don't. It's not big pay, but with that they kind of rope in other people to work with you, and that's when you throw out the bigger numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, what you're talking about is my white chip, red chip, and blue chip.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but my white chip clients. Boy, this really is now just like, hey, just go back and listen. Basically, what you're experiencing right now is that it's that everything that I said in that freelance business, that like first year rush of things, like how much money do you need to make? How do you figure out which money you need to make? What is? And we talked before about white chip, red chip, and blue chip clients. Basically, it's 3-digit jobs, 4-digit jobs, and 5-digit jobs. So
Yeah.
white chip is like in the hundreds, red chip is in the thousands, and then blue chip, those are your like ad jobs or, that kind of stuff. Big corporate jobs, and those will give you, or kind of sometimes long-term jobs. But when I don't mean like contract work, like season. That's not really what I mean. I kind of mean more like get hired to do a thing for a project for a slightly longer time where you could get a 5-digit payday. Those kinds of things. That's how you climb the ladder there. And deciding, okay, what did I think I made an analogy of, not an analogy, but a comparison. I usually say that if you have decided, all right, I need my jobs to pay $1,500. That's what I need because this is how fast I work. I need this much, and you keep getting these offers for these jobs that are like $500. Well, if you can finish like 5 of those $500 jobs in the time that it would take you to find and finish a $1,500 job, you should just be taking the $500 jobs.
Yeah.
Because the more you do it, you'll build up clients, but with also realizing that those clients are probably not the ones that you're going to want to continue working with.
It's really
something just like you get money for it.
There's been moments where I had where I not flipped out, but the amount of stuff that they wanted for the budget was not great. And I think that was at a breaking point where I was kind of frustrated with other things. And I just said, no, I mean, that's too much. And it was like, I was like, you're asking for this, and then there are people who are like, we just can't afford that, but then they want more out of it. And when you finally talk them into that budget where you say, I need this, at least this, is always the at least 500.
Right.
They do it. However, there is a thing where they somehow start to believe that because they're paying that extra 500, that they call more shots.
Right.
And it was like, no, you don't call more shots. This is I got you to this level, and so that you can say the shots that you already called earlier or something,
Right. And that evolution that you're talking about, that's the evolution of where you start going from your white chip clients to your red chip clients. That's when you start going like, okay, I've got enough work here. I've done enough things. I know what I'm doing. I know what value I have. And so that evolution is kind of what freelance takes. Eventually, you end up just turning down those kinds of jobs. The more work that you do, the more networking you do, the more other jobs that you're going to have kind of come in. And basically, you really only need like a couple of those red chip clients. to have repeat work. I mean, you're just doing white chip clients until you can get the red chip clients, or until you just get super frustrated where you just can't do the white chip clients anymore. And the thing is, if you can't make that progression, if you can't climb that ladder up before, I've brought it up many times, your patience and your energy level for the stuff that you're doing just completely evaporates. Because when you first start, it's like, okay, I can do that. It's like paying your dues. But after a while, you're like, all right, I paid enough dues. I need to like get something. And as long as you've been working at it, then you're likely to get those kinds of jobs. If you're not working at it, you're not likely to get those jobs. In the beginning, believe me, again, self-care, great. But that works a little bit more in studio jobs. If you're looking to be a freelancer, it's very nice that you're kind to yourself as a freelancer. But when you're first starting out, like, I don't know a single person who started out in freelance that didn't have the greatest portfolio in the world that could actually balance it in a way that they weren't working like crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, you were just taking a whole bunch of work. You started to get to the point where you're like, I not necessarily you got to call the shots, but okay, now I have to tell you what this costs. Like, you think this is what it costs, and I was doing it before, but now this is actually what it costs.
Yeah, and they never remember. Like, when you work with them again.
Oh, they remember.
Yeah, oh, yeah. They pretend they don't remember. And they'll just keep trying to push it more, you know? Something that was like a minute becomes like 3 minutes or something, and you just got to keep reminding them. There are, like, other clients, the how's it going or how you doing every day.
That's like the professional version of you up.
Yeah. And it's just like, hey, how are things going with you? It aggravates me. I'd rather just have you go like, hey, how's my project? Than be like, hey, how's life? I don't know. I'm doing your shitty project instead of like doing whatever I want to do. Oh,
woo! There's the swear. That makes it explicit. Now, okay, you know what, we're talking about big boy things, so it's fine.
That's right.
We're talking adult things, so we can say adult words. That's
right. Big boy words.
Yeah.
Another kind of client.
Big bird words.
No, just picture a very foul mouthed bird.
Foul.
Oh boy.
Okay, that's I feel like we should drink on a pun.
Yeah, I mean, I do have alcohol.
Do you? Oh, save that for... We're recording this the same day that we're going to be doing the Battle Talk. Because it's President's Day, and I have President's Day off. You have President's Day off.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually... of course you do. That's how we're doing this show right now.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. So another client is the no rush, very chill client that the project just becomes... never ending because
scope creep.
Is that a something you came across?
Scope creep. I brought it up. I feel like for all the shows that we've done, especially at Freelance, and you're like jumping in Freelance, you have forgotten all of them. Scope creep is the scope of the project. It's where you start out doing one thing, and then over the course of the project, it just grows bigger and bigger, and it goes on longer and longer. And the project where it ends is a much larger scope than what you started with. That's scope creep.
I mean,
that can happen if you say this project is $1,000, and then, yada yada yada. You're still getting $1,000. Maybe you'll get an extra $250 out of it. Maybe you're getting $1,250, but the work that you're doing is like twice as much.
Yeah.
So effectively, they end up getting this huge bargain because they sucker you in with a good deal in the beginning, and then just slowly, creep that scope up.
Well, thankfully, the client that kind of does this is they throw in more money, knowing that it's going to be more. But like, there was a thing where it's going to be extended, but they're taking a long time on their end. And then sometimes when they're not caring about the project, I'm not caring about the project. And then there's moments where I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to just only work on this thing. And then you're working hard, and then on Tuesday, another client goes, hey, and you're like, oh yeah, right, I forgot that you have something too. And it just becomes like you have like multiple bosses now. And like I said, I forgot what movie I watched. Oh, I watched the Endgame.
Oh, you septuagenarian. You just
I watched the End Games with the superheroes.
I watched the End Games with the Captain Americas, the Iron Mans,
The American Captain. Yeah. I got to watch the whole movie, and it felt so great to just watch a movie but there's always in the back of your mind is this pressure of like, I could be working, and you hate it because like even spending time with family, having there's friends that they want to just have like phone calls and you know that there's a pressure of like, I can't. And in their mind, they're like, there's a pandemic. You have all the time in the world. Every day is faster and faster. You wake up and you think, oh, okay, this freelance project, they really just want this character to do this. And there's some morphing stuff and it's quick. It's like a logo kind of thing. It's probably maybe 20 seconds tops. You forget that takes all day. And especially if you need to transfer it to some other file, add sound effects, export it in different versions, different formats. And every step is a lifetime. And when you finish one project, especially when you have ongoing projects with this person, and then you finally finish one that they have, and then they go, how's that other one doing? It's like, do you really think I'm only working on your stuff?
Well, that is something that is a difficult conversation that you sometimes need to have with freelance clients, because what you just said was that you have like 5 bosses or multiple bosses. I don't know if I put 5 in my head, but you just said you had multiple bosses. That's kind of true, but kind of not. Like you have 5 clients, you have 5 people that are paying you to do something, and these people, because they're paying you to do something, the clients is like you have 5 customers, not really 5 bosses. If you think of it more like you have a thing and they have come into your store and want to buy a thing, like a restaurant, right? It's kind of the boss thing is a little bit more if you change your mind to the customer's always right. Well, then you can kind of get into that boss mentality, I guess. But it's a little parallel to that. It's not exactly boss. They can fire you, but customers can also send back food. They can refuse to pay. They can leave. It's a bit more like you are a service provider. You provide something, and they are a client. They are purchasing that thing from you, and it takes time to do that. So you're like making a really nice meal for them, basically. And they can request things like, you can say, "Hey, how do you want your meat cooked?" They could say, "You know what? I don't want starch today. I don't want potatoes. Can you give me a salad?" And say, "Can I swap out a salad?" Like they can make requests and they can change things. They can order new things. Yeah. If you're slow, then they may take that, kindly, and may say, "All right, I'll just I'll just have some wine in the meantime. I'll just kind of hang out." Yeah. Or they may like, "Chop, chop. I gotta go. This is I'm here for sustenance. I'm not here for enjoyment. I got to get this thing out the road. You could look at it that way. Because looking at it in terms, if you have 5 bosses, I would feel that would really exacerbate your anxiety to the point of people are telling you to do something, and you're like, well, I have to do this thing.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
In so much as it would be bad for your credibility as an animator, and in so much as they may refuse to pay you, you have to do it. But other than that, it's just you would be a bad business. It's like you're a bad restaurant. Your Yelp reviews would go down if you just treat the customer badly. It's more like that rather than having a boss that's going to fire you or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you kind of switch your mind to that thinking, because being at a studio or being on site someplace, you have bosses. But being freelance, you're the boss. You're the studio. You're the boss of the creatives that are doing the thing, right? You're the you figure out how to make this thing. So you are a boss of sorts. Even though you're a team of one, you're still your own boss, right? That kind of idea. You have a client. That client has come to your, quote, studio for a service, and then you provide that service. but you still want them to be happy. There's plenty of studios and plenty of business. There's tons of studios that like get clients to purchase the animation that studio makes. They are referred to as clients, and you can bill to that client, but they are not bosses. The bosses are internal.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes
Yeah, I think saying boss,
mentally.
means. I think I made it seem more like they were more of aggressive with it, but that wasn't the case really. I do tend to.
It just sounded like bagpipes just went off outside. Like I know those were horns, but it sounded like someone just decided they were going to play some bagpipes for like a half second.
No, I was going to make a point and I forgot.
I see. I was going to make a Roddy Piper joke about he was about to walk in, and they started playing his music, and it's like, oh no, turn it down. I'm not ready yet. Oh, rest in peace, Ready.
Yep. Wait, was that 2019 that he died?
Was it? I don't know.
Who knows? Anyway, but
someone knows, and we apparently have a lot of wrestling fans who listen. It's so strange to me, the crossover that happens in pop culture between certain things, and apparently there's a big crossover with wrestling and animation. I don't know why. It's very interesting. There's a lot of animators that I meet that are like way into wrestling. It must be, I don't know. It's some sort of
the physics
performative type stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe physicality.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a sport. It's weird because I think of wrestling in a very meathead kind of way, but the people that I meet who enjoy wrestling actually look at sports like, oh no, those are the meatheads. This is like meathead theater, right? This is just beefy theater, but it's not. They're not like
Yeah.
It's like B movies. I kind of related to that whenever I've seen wrestling. It looks like a B movie.
I'm very sad that this episode is going to be called Freaky Friday because beefy theater is a winner in my book.
Beefy theater. I do like that.
Yeah, I will say, I don't know if this...
I'm full of good analogies today.
I wanted to stow a couple of more freelance scenes, but I want to take share your experience. I want you to share your experiences jumping from freelance to working in the studio.
Sure. Yeah, that was something that I think we talked about a long time ago that we were going to do. So that is, I guess, part of the idea of our Freaky Friday episode is switching like this. You're discovering all these things.
Yeah, it's stuff that you talked about, and then I'm kind of like living it now. And it's just like, oh wow,
yeah.
There is a very hustler feeling towards it. I remember. I think you got a really big gig or something, and I helped you with it, and there was this energy you had that you kind of like did the punch in the air kind of thing. And I remember Walter White in Breaking Bad, where he got a big amount of money and he was in his car and he just started screaming like, yes, started punching his steering wheel and stuff like that, and like I forget what he was.
I think the context is different there because I think he was getting a certain kind of rush out of it that I wasn't. I was like, I can pay rent. I could eat. You know the thing. Just before I start moving over to my stuff. Even when you're talking about your stuff, we're talking about my stuff. So let's talk about my version of your life before we talk about my version of my life. How about that?
Yeah.
So what you're looking for in freelance is you're not just looking for the payday. You're looking for that buffer. The buffer is a big deal because you don't know when the month is when you're gonna have a bad month, and you need to make a decent amount of money so that you stay ahead of the game.
Yeah.
That's a lot what it is. So when you get a big payday, you get very excited because you know that like it lets you relax a little bit. You know what that payday does? It lets you do things like watch Endgame without like your like butthole being puckered the whole time. Like I gotta work. Sorry everyone, but we did say adult language. It's you're so tense all the time, not just because of the amount of work that you might have to do, but but the amount of work that you could be doing when you're doing something for yourself, and that's the whole self-care thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's also not just that. It's also more like, I mean, I don't know about you, but like I of course enjoy talking to people. I enjoy, conversing and sharing and learning about people's personalities and life experiences and all that sort of thing. But man, it takes a lot out of me. It is something that I think when you meet me or when you hear me on a podcast or talk or something, I think people take for granted that I'm just this like I'm some sort of slightly jaded Energizer bunny that just talks a lot, and I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on things, and I could just go. That is true to an extent, but when I think I can keep it on for as long as I'm in front of people, but the longer that goes, when I am by myself, it takes a lot longer for me to like recharge. So if I have short interactions with people and then I go home, I can actually do some hobbies. Like I can play guitar, I can do some animation myself. I have some energy to do things on my own where people are not around, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if I were to, let's say, go to a conference or go to an animation party or something, and I mean, you saw this while we were like living together. You come home and you just crash. You just sit on the couch and just put something on TV. Don't even have the energy to look for a show on Netflix. You just put on YouTube and just play like whatever is in your subscription. So just like let it play through. Like you don't even have energy to follow a narrative. You're just like, let's watch whatever nonsense is on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's also that. It's also where you have to have energy to do your work. And then on your own time, if you're talking with people, if that is not something that energizes you, if that's something that can drain your energy, then you just have another thing that drains your energy. So now you have to like recover from that. You recover from work and just the whole thing. Sometimes you just feel like I want to spend my time being alone and recovering my energy so that I'm spending less time away from work to go back to it and do it. Especially if you have like multiple projects and they're all kind of overlapping.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to say that because it's not even necessarily about you feeling guilty that you can't spend time doing stuff with your family. Sometimes you want to spend time with your family because you love your family and you want to, but in my case at least, almost all interactions take. They take from me.
Yeah.
And I willingly give that energy, but I gotta find a way to get it back.
Yeah.
And that's where all my hobbies just like go away. It's like I have no hobbies when I'm working a lot or when I'm out, hanging out with friends and things. And
that's the worst part about having like an original idea, but you can't because you know that you can't use that energy for that. And then it kind of cheapens your work because you're putting in all more effort into other projects because you want to get your idea out of the way quicker. And and the more I did freelance, it's weird. When I was doing my regular job and then freelance after, I still managed to do my own stuff. And I don't know whether it was because work was a long break from freelance stuff, But
well, you weren't doing the same type of work.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a different thing. I mean, if you're doing a completely different type of work, it's it's just a shift. It's just a shifting of gears. Sometimes you want to do, and for you also, I think there was a certain type of expression that you were lacking, not being able to do that. When you do freelance, you can't help but put a little bit of yourself in there. I mean, that is part of it. You make decisions, and when you put those in the work, that kind of makes those micro decisions. Those are extra type of energy, and you don't really have the energy to put into your own stuff. That's one of the reasons why I did like the battles so much, was because it was just a truncated, super focused thing of, okay, it's a sprint, right? I can muster enough energy to really focus on this one topic and come up with this one idea and give myself a few hours. I know at the end of it, I'm gonna be a little tired before I like switch gears to something else. But in a way, it also re-energizes me a bit, because while physically it's taking a lot, and just to focus like that and to do the work, I'm not talking to anyone. I'm not engaging in any way that. And when I'm doing animation, especially for myself or that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing that replenishes my energy. I do get exhausted doing it, but it's more like a physical thing rather than a mental thing. It's more of a. So there's so many different, because I think there's two types of energy, and we there's the mental energy, there's the physical energy, and I think I've probably talked about this in another podcast, but you can either have something take or replenish either one of those. So it's like this matrix of mental and physical energy, and then give and take, and you just you have to find a way to find projects, like a series of projects that will be the result of this. I don't know if this is going to make any sense to you, but anyone who knows like matrices and stuff, like you would just find a few projects that would have matrices that would work well with one another. But if you have all projects that take your mental energy rather than give, and nothing is giving your mental energy, then it's just multiplied. Now you just have 3 jobs or 3 things that are just taking your mental energy. You're just going to be dead by the end of the day.
Yeah. There's definitely like a struggle that for a long time, and then I pretty much alienated a lot of people, and it just became like I like the genie in Aladdin. Poof, what do you need? Poof, what do you need? Poof. I felt like that was my life, waking up to make something for somebody else. And there were some freelance jobs that
phenomenal cosmic powers, itty bitty living space. It's perfect for us in New York.
Exactly. And it was like I did get clients that wanted me to do my work. And one was the mashed thing where they wanted me to animate something in my style and
that was
write
great.
something. And that felt so good. And I told them how grateful I was to not get hired because of my style and then have to change it to something that, I compared us to an animator to being like an animation plugin that you put into like After Effects or something, where it's just like,
right.
They don't see like you see an artist and then you're like, oh, I love his paintings. I want to have his paintings on my wall or something like that. And it was just like you're going to Basquiat and you're asking him to paint another artist.
You're a hired gun. You're just someone that they're just saying like, maybe, it's like I guess it's like going to a restaurant and then telling the person like, I really like this meal I had at this other restaurant. Can you just make me that? They're like, no, man, I'm the chef de cuisine of this place. Like I've made, even to stretch the metaphor a bit more, like maybe the ingredients that they have at the restaurant are completely different than the restaurant than the ingredients I have at my restaurant. Like the skills are not the same. The programs that we're good at are not the same. Maybe that's a Thai restaurant and this is a French restaurant. Like you can't just tell someone, just do this. But I think the idea is, well, you're an animator. You do animation. This is animation. Like, yeah, animation is an umbrella term for giving life to things that aren't alive. I mean, it could be anything.
And I think when you're...
Have you seen my reel? Do you know what I do?
Yeah. I mean, I show a reel. Then I ended up doing a 10-minute church video. It was like, what? How does this happen? That was long ago. But I do feel like when you're younger, you can like kind of emulate other things and all that stuff. But at my age, I just felt like...
Because you're still finding your style. That's why. Yeah.
But at my age, I just wanted my brand to be like, you don't hire a certain artist to do something else. And it felt kind of like, I don't know, just draining having to do these kind of gigs and stuff. And when I did get the gigs where there was based on more of my work, there was more of you put a little more into it because you felt better about it because it was yours. It was yours too, But moving, so that was pretty much my experiences. I loved it, and I did get really used to it. And of course, now I'm a corporate sellout, a network sellout.
Oh well, we'll get to that.
Oh yeah, but I did enjoy freelance a lot. There was a very like kind of a bad mental state at some points because it was just kind of like you're just exhausted, you're overworked, and you wake up with just a headache, you know, because you're just like, God, I just, you know, I gotta just keep doing. You're constantly trying to dig your way out of each project or something, you know. So yeah, but I know that was your life, and then you moved on to you. I think you handled it very well.
Well, okay,
as far
so
as
I think
balancing life and
I think
work.
that the transition is I think probably easier to go from a full-time freelancer to working in a studio. I would hazard that guess. I mean, there were things that I was worried about. I like to engage people as much as possible in conversations, and I know that I had always felt, you know, in my early life anyway, that I was dismissed a lot, and I felt like, you know, that's a real shitty feeling. And so I guess maybe part of working from home and the fact that I would only interact with people at conferences or things like that, I really didn't have much friendships, I guess, outside of going to conferences. So of course, you know, you would only see people every once in a while. I mean, I met you at a animation event, and just lucky enough that we lived in the same city and we liked each other and we were in close proximity. But I really moved around a lot, so I wasn't actually in the same place. So one of my big things was when I went to the studio, I didn't actually know how I was going to be interacting with people all day long. That was actually a very real concern of mine, because I think I was fine. I had good social abilities, but it was completely untested in like 10, 15 years or whatever at the time. I hadn't been around, let's say, a group, not even a large group, but like a group of people for 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, ever in my adult life, like not since college, really.
yeah.
So I didn't know if I was saying earlier about the energy, how much energy it takes out of me to interact with people in that way, and I was actually very concerned that might just straight up drain me. And it's a bit true in that I think one thing that I struggled with is boundaries on like how much to talk to someone or to engage with someone for the amount of energy that it's going to take out of you. And it also was pretty important to me that I wanted to make friends. That was another thing, that I didn't really have a lot of friends because, you know, working from home and freelance and stuff, and I wanted to have like a group of friends. The concern also is like, all right, how much work am I going to do? How much energy am I going to spend on work? Are we going to do stuff outside of work? And it was just, you become very excited whenever you get to hang out with anyone and get to do anything, and you have to pull that back a little bit, because it is like a little bit like a kid who's just very excited to do something. It's just I'm just very excited, and then, you know, they're so excited to like eat candy and hang out with your friends and run around, and they just like throw up all over yourself. Like it's you gotta pace yourself a little bit in the amount of stuff that you do, which can make it a little bit difficult to make friends when you're there also, because, you know, things like, I don't know, just hanging out during the day, hanging out after work, like sometimes you just don't have the energy. Like, I gotta go home.
Yeah.
And then people think that you like don't want to hang out or don't want to be friends. Like, no, I just don't have a ton of energy like all day, every day. So I gotta go home and I gotta rest up, because I guess we're, you know, doing something on Friday or something like that.
Yeah.
That was probably the weirdest thing to me, because the work is the work. I know I could do the work. The speed was a bit of a question, but a huge question that I think people don't usually consider, especially if you only know freelancing, is the people, office life. Like, I didn't know what office life was like. I'll say office politics, super real. It's a very, very real thing. There's like weird power dynamics that I wasn't ready for people to be flexing power dynamics over me.
Yeah.
that felt very odd and very uncomfortable, and I felt like I was back in high school, which was a very weird feeling.
Yeah. It's funny too, because like when I started working there eventually, I think because you had years of freelance and working on your own, everyone else just been kind of working this deal for a long time, so they kind of slack off on things, and you were kind of like, no, I want to know the mechanics of stuff. I want to know how this works. I'm going to stay here a certain amount of time figuring stuff out. You were like doing your chemist kind of thing where you're just kind of like trying out different ways to make the job easier, and everyone else was just like, it's a living. I'm gonna take a.
I mean, I guess it was a bit of a.
break.
It was exciting for parts like that, because I do like getting into that. I will say the function, the work part of it. I had always thought that I was pretty fast with animation, just because you have to be in freelance, and I had just kind of taken it for granted on that. I had been told that I was fast. But I had no metric. I had no real comparison. So I was a little nervous in that. Like, I'd never sat next to anyone and animated sitting next to someone doing this. And I was like, can I... what I think about myself, what I think about the way that I animate and how quick I animate and how, the quality of animation that I give, is my self-assessment going to crumble in this new way of testing my metric, which is sitting next to people, because I had never experienced that before. There's a type of pride that comes where someone gives you something and you're just a one-man band and you take the thing and you just like, boom, do it, and you send it back. But there can be also a kind of arrogant comfort that comes in that, where it's like, I don't need to work at a studio. I do this all myself. You couldn't do what I do. That kind of almost like indie punk bands arrogance, like fighting back against the ideas. Like, I don't need to go after a studio thing, where someone might rightly say, you would never get that studio gig. You could say that all you want, but frankly, your stuff wouldn't be good enough anyway. And I didn't know, am I deluding? Am I self-delusional in how good I think that I am? There was a real thought there. And not because I actually thought that might be true. Just the sheer fact of, before I went in there, I thought, it could be. I don't know. I mean, how do you know if you're delusional in how good you think you are in your animation, your skills? And so there was a type of anxiety there. It's funny because you'd say that, and I really only shared it with a couple people, and they're like, oh no, that's crazy, but I was like, yeah, but you're my friend though. So you have to say that.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I think that was shocking to me is exactly kind of what you said, how little people care about the work that they're actually doing. And I think it's probably because they've been doing it for super long, and the only reason that I even pushed myself in freelance is because I had to, because it was a hustle and I was still working at it.
Yeah. But
if you just got out of school and you're in a studio job, the more that those years go on, the more that you realize, oh, I could just get by doing this. Okay, I'll just do that then. And then you just kind of settle into a nice groove, and that's where you are. So I think I kind of went in with a bit of something to prove. And it might, that could also be annoying to your coworkers. It's almost like, the gym class hero who's like, we're just warming up. You don't need to sprint.
Yeah. But you also had like this gratefulness of like, thank you for giving me a check every week. Like you knew you were going to get guaranteed money, That was the craziest and it wasn't
thing.
You searching for something, so
oh yeah,
you took that. Everyone else is just like, it's just a check, but you took that as like, I'm gonna work my ass off for you because you're paying me to do this, you know? And I think everyone else kind of
something that just took the pressure off my shoulders. I wouldn't necessarily say that I was like, I'll do anything for you because you're giving me a weekly check.
Just anything. And then you winked.
But I no. But I did. I felt like it took pressure off my shoulders.
Yeah.
Because I made this. I made the same amount as a freelancer. If you compare like my first time out in a studio, I made more as a freelancer than I did. And even like the second time, I still made more as a freelancer. Freelancing paid better, but it was super inconsistent. I never really knew if the bottom was totally going to drop out and I was just going to be, stuck there. There is a comfort that comes in working a studio job where like I'm not pitching. I'm not responsible for all this, all this work. I'm not responsible for selling this. If you're getting a job as an animator in a studio, it's like they give you some scenes to do and you do that. Oh, that would probably be the other thing that I was really surprised at. There was a lot of people would really just take whatever was given to them and like right in front of them and be like, I don't have what I need for this thing. I'd be like, all right, well, I mean, you could just look over here. Like this is, where the stuff is. You could just go there and say, yeah, but you didn't tell me where it was.
Yeah.
And it was that kind of thing I was totally not used to because obviously in freelancing, it's they don't tell you anything. you gotta figure stuff out and you gotta like clarify a lot of things. So, I will say that was something that as I started to get maybe a little bit more responsibility became something that I was really focusing on was to give as much information to the animators as possible because I started to see that people who work in a studio consistently, that is like the number one thing that they look for. They want to be told exactly what to do. And if you don't tell them exactly... Now, I'm not saying everyone because some people... Like, I love it when someone takes initiative and like puts another spin on something within reason. I mean, you have to still make the show that you're making. Like sometimes people will get a little overzealous and do something that like, we'll never make it on this show. It's like, have you seen the show? We're not doing this for this show.
Yeah.
But cool. Good that you spent all that time making that animation that will never go anywhere. But I mean, it looks good. But a lot of times the idea of you create something or you're telling someone to create. I'm sorry, I'm very distracted. There's like beeping in the background.
There's always that truck backing up.
There's always that truck.
Any time of the day.
But it was just like when you give someone a scene and the scene may say character A and B are in this scene. And then you'll look at the scene and be like, character C's in this scene. There is a type of person that just will not work on it until you fix that and say like, okay, character C's in the scene. They're not doing anything. They're just standing there. So here's what I expect out of this. Obviously, knowing what to expect is fine. But there's a ton of people that won't take certain steps and won't take certain initiatives. So that was probably the other biggest thing that I learned going into a studio is how it really, really does function based on structure. Like the amount of structure that you provide is what makes the process go smoothly. If you don't provide that structure, then I don't know, a good portion of the time, whenever there's mistakes, there's a fair amount of employees that will just not move. They just won't do anything. It's like an ant that loses the scent trail. It just stops and starts like wandering around. Like it just has no idea. It can't follow the line anymore. Yeah. There's like, you know what I'm talking about with the ants in a row. You see that A Bug's Life? I think it was when they're all walking and then like a leaf comes down and just interrupts the line and someone just stops and stares at the leaf and goes, "I'm lost."
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought that was ants. Oh, I guess it was Bug's Life.
I think that's A Bug's Life.
Yeah, they were around the same time.
They were almost exactly the same time.
Hey everyone, Stephen Brooks here, cutting into my own show to let you know that this episode is supported by listeners like you on patreon.com/rubberonion. If you like what you get from this show, you see value in it and want to keep it going, consider becoming a patron and get basically everything related to the podcast early and or exclusive, including our new podcastimation, which you get to see a full month early. It's like a subscription, but you get to pick the amount. The more you give, the more you get. the show can go on. Patreon.com/rubberonion. Check it out. As always, thanks for listening, and let's all meet up back at the forum on rubberonion.com. See you there.
That was a bit of a change for me. So I guess you can be seen maybe as maybe a little bit let's use the word annoying. If you don't react that way, then it kind of maybe puts pressure on other people to act the same way, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I really learned that there was no difference between the government job I had and the animation job. Where when I first started working,
usually I tell people now, don't be afraid to get into animation, because you'd be surprised how it's very. It's not what you think it is. If you think it is not, it is a job. It is a normal, everyday job. And I think some people don't like that because they're like, oh, I want to use my creativity. I want to no, you're not using your creativity most of the time.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while you'll get to do some sort of flourish, but most of the time it's like, no, we really just want you to move this character over here and just make the mouth move. Like this is fine.
Yeah.
Just do that because we got to go.
This is too animated. You know, my favorite.
That's a real thing, especially if you're in preschool.
My favorite moment was where we were very behind schedule and we had a meeting, and it was pretty much told we are very way behind. And then right after, I'm thinking, oh, we should really get at it now. And everyone's like, all right, 2-hour lunch break. Right afterwards, it was just like, oh, I don't think that's good.
Work life, studio life, I guess it's a common thing, I guess. I got to be honest, I'm still getting a little used to the wide variety of attitudes that there are, and not attitudes in I'm not saying like negative attitude, just any attitude. The work ethic, the way people approach things. It's there's a big diversity in the way people approach things, and I think also the other thing that you run into is, especially in animation towns, there are kind of crews that will jump around from place to place, like that know each other, right? So they like worked on a show. When that show ends, or when a project ends, and especially in narrative like TV, they'll jump to another project, right? Because if another place is hiring, they're going to suck up like all the talent that they can. It's like, oh, this show just ended, we can get all their talent, right? So they just like bring them all in, and man, it ends up being like Jets and Sharks kind of thing. It's like they come in totally with a chip on their shoulder, like, oh, we know each other. Oh yeah, but over here, when we were here, we did this. But yeah, but when we were here, and it's that becomes its own thing.
A lot of inside jokes that you don't know about.
A lot of inside jokes, and really just the amount of energy I think that's spent into meeting new people, right? If you know people already, are you going to spend that extra energy? I just talked about it. Are you really going to spend that extra energy to go out and to meet other people there? Or are you just going to feel like, well, I know these people, this is easy now, so I'll just do that? And the problem with that is that once you settle into a groove, well, clicks form, and it really is. It's a lot. It's like high school in a very weird way. It's an odd thing that happens. But the group that will come from either all a graduating class of a school, or from a show, or from another studio, not necessarily a show, but all the same studio, you'll get very similar work patterns where you can pretty much be sure that the way that this person responds to getting assignments, or the way that this person responds to a lot of work, or to not a lot of direction, or abstract direction, or something, you'll just find patterns in the way that they respond to certain things based on the fact that they also worked alongside this other person at this place. You just find trends, not across the board, but there are trends that kind of pop up. So. And I think the same thing could be said for freelance, but I think the big X factor in freelance, because there was a few freelancers that also came in and worked for like the first time on that project as well. And I think that what you run into there is, well, you can't predict that at all, which makes it actually harder. I think it's sometimes harder and more risky to hire a freelancer because you have no idea how they respond to direction or how they respond to their work or whatever. They may be a good, like, what I say, one-man band.
Yeah.
They may be great at that, but they may have the messiest projects in the world because they have no idea what it's like to hand off your project to someone else who has to figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's not one way is better than another. It's just, it's the same as like all studios and all jobs. But the weird thing I think about animation as opposed to maybe some other types of work is that the artistry, the creative aspect of it, and the fact that there is a huge gig economy to it, where when I say freelance, I mean some people that work in studios call that freelance. Well, I call that contract work. I don't call that freelance. Freelance to me is like you're working from home, you're getting your stuff online. That's freelance. But people will say like I'm a freelance animator when they will work on site. I'll work on site for like a few months here, a couple months here. And that is freelance in the eyes of the government. That is freelance. But I make a distinction to that in contract work. So there's big gig economy there. There's multiple different types of ways that you work from home. There's multiple different types of animation and efficiencies and disciplines. Because it's almost like a job or a studio shutting down like all the time. As soon as a group of people leave a show and then they all get sucked up into this other show and they're all kind of moving around together. Because, of course, one person will get hired and they'll say, hey, do you know any other animator? Like, oh, I do. I know all these other people. And, of course, you want to hire people that are recommended because, also it's good for you that your staff knows each other and has a shorthand for how they work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's weird, if specifically for animation, that you have these, like, groups that kind of jump around, and it is very like West Side Story, because you have like there are two specific groups that I have seen that ne'er the two shall meet. They jump around to different studios at different times, and I find that really funny.
Oh, was it the group that would walk in and snapping their fingers at the same time? Not the ones that were
rolling their t-shirts up. Putting
carton of cigarettes,
thing of pencils, rubber eraser, just. Folding it up in their t-shirt pocket. Arm? What's
your t-shirt arm? What's one thing that, let's say, knock on wood, you had to go back to doing freelance? What's one thing that you would be most excited about?
I think making more decisions about the look of it and the movement of it. I think that in a studio environment, obviously. You're working a lot with other people. You have to be able to have a style that, first of all, is reflective of what your director, your showrunner, what the studio, what they want, but also it has to match with other animators, because you should have a show that looks cohesive, that it looks like one animation style or one animator. Everyone knows it's not one animator, but it shouldn't be apparent that like one person worked on this and one person worked on that. Like sometimes when I see that in a show where I'm like, oh, it's very clear that between these two shots in the same scene, this is one animator, this is another animator. It's kind of like when you watch an old B movie and they like wig a stunt performer. Like it's this like 90-year-old woman, and then she like goes out a window, and now it's like 180-pound man in like a yellow wig, like a blonde wig, and he's just falling down, and then falls down off screen, and then up pops Texas switch to the actor that pops up now. Yeah. So anyway, I think those things are distracting, right? They're kind of charming in B movies, but they're distracting in animation.
There's some companies that do.
I think
some shows, I guess, like Super Gel or something like that, where you can point out who animated on what, but it's kind of rare.
It's rare, and it's something that you're not really supposed to do. Obviously, it's not a goal, and so I think that's something that's really nice about freelance is having a bit more. I'm in freelance. I'm usually the only creative person on this job, unless I've hired someone else to like help me If I'm doing the one-man band thing, well, they don't know anything. They know what they want as an end result kind of thing, but they're not really making creative decisions. I'm making all the creative decisions, and there's a type of freedom that goes with that, because it might be in line with something that I might want to do. I might be playing a lot with I don't know, particle engines or something like that, and they may say, let's have some rain in the scene. I'm like, great, I know exactly how I'm going to do it because I started playing with particle engines.
Yeah.
Whereas before I might have just done a simple three frame loop of some lines.
Oh, I love recycling effects. Oh, you need fire?
you do.
I got fire. Mostly all my freelance projects has the same fire loop. Oh,
I think that stuff's fun.
have you ever had this moment where they go, "Hey, how's the project going?" And you go, you haven't started it, but you're like, "It's looking great. I have this going on. I really like the character of this thing, and it's looking really good. Can I see something?" And you go, "Yeah." I mean,
Oh, you just made a rookie mistake there. Believe me, as a freelancer, you do need to bullshit to a certain extent,
yeah,
but you need to bullshit within reason.
yeah.
This is not like if you're okay. I know I said not boss or whatever. I'm going to make an analogy here that compares a client to a parent. But if they say like, did you do your chores? And you say like, oh yeah. No, like my room is almost all cleaned up. You're like, oh yeah, can I see it? And then they go in there and it looks exactly the same way as before. It's like, oh, but I stacked papers. Like that is not, So what you could say is something like, I looked at it and I have a list of like what I want to do. So I think I'm going to do the papers first, and then I'm going to pick up my clothes, and that'll take care of most of it. Take out the bottles and cans that are in my room, and then sort the papers. And I think that will give us most. It's just when I was looking around, it was a little too much for me, and I just needed to relax a little bit. But I will hit that in like an hour. Then your parent can go in your room and go like, yeah, okay, all right, that looks like a good plan. You got to bullshit within reason.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it works. You just send them screen grabs or something.
It's really disappointing that I came up with that fast. If my mom is listening, I never did that.
I love. Oh yeah. There's a time where I said yeah. Then like when I finally get to it, like oh yeah, the audio is great and everything, and then I don't have the audio, and then I have to ask them for the audio again. I go, hey, for some reason the audio I had isn't playing anymore. Can you send me that?
That is good, and that's good unless they decide to go searching in their sent to like resend it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll be like, oh, I don't want to re-upload it. I'm just going to look in my sent folder to see like I'm just going to forward it to you again, and be like, oh, I never sent the audio. He's lying. But whatever. This is the thing. This is freelance, right? They're basically going to take advantage of you. You're going to take advantage of them. It's a shitty cycle.
Yeah.
But it's not one that you're doing it again within reason. You're just doing it a little bit. You're just kind of trying to get your elbow room. Yeah. That's all. You're not grifting. You're not trying to like steal from them or anything like that. What you're trying to do is you're trying to like recognize the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is if you don't at least get a little room for yourself, they're going to squeeze in on you, and then you're stuck there.
Yeah.
And you just want to sit down, and there's a man-spreading joke in there.
You say sit down and spread out.
Yeah, but as I started saying it, I was like, oh, there's a joke there, but I don't know that I want to make that analogy.
As long as no one else is around you.
Yeah, sure. So anyway, I think for me those were the three big things. It was just like interactions with other people, like how much I would interact with people, how much energy they would take out of me, and honestly, how much can I be friends with my coworkers? And there's obviously a lot of people are just like this. We're coworkers, and that's it. And getting a feel for that kind of thing is obviously I'm a happy person. And I like to be friends with everyone. That's not always That's not always in the cards, no matter how lovely you are. But to a certain extent, you're working together. You especially if you start climbing a ladder or something like that, then you're in a position where you're starting to make plans that affect the people's work hours and affect their salaries. And now that I'm a director, you're making those types of decisions that really do put you in a place like, I know that my animators play like Jackbox and stuff, and I might pop in and say hi, but aside from the fact that I'm significantly older than most of them, it's also now that kind of thing it maybe passed me by unless I'm in a studio position where I'm an animator again, just like sitting alongside people. The whole coworker thing is I have precious few people that I can really talk freely with now.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
And of course, this situation now, working from home, that kind of goes out the window. Developing any kind of friendship with coworkers.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but it's a bit difficult to get a feeling for how people communicate, and those clicks become even more pronounced. I'm not in a position now where I'm a little bit more talking about when I was an animator. That was probably the first thing that I noticed was just the dynamic that happens in the studio. Office life. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Now I see what I had used to see in like movies and TV. Like, yes, all of the pitfalls and the issues and the weird dynamics and all those things are present, and you have to learn that real fast because I was a bit naive when I started in a studio, and it's fine. It's an office.
See, I think I always
coworkers.
I went into it hoping no one talked to me.
Well, because you were in a studio, you were in an office before, and you had a lot of coworker interaction, so you would learn certain things. For me, it was like, I always say this about my high school homecoming, like football and cheerleaders and stuff, like that was not a big deal at all. Like, nobody really cared. I mean, I guess soccer and basketball, I guess those were like the two, like women's soccer and men's basketball. Those are the two sports that I guess would be the closest to I would watch TV and I would see this big homecoming thing, and the people making a big deal about the cheerleaders, and they all had a chip on their shoulder and everything. Like, I would see all that, and then I would see the football players, and they were all like, the coolest guys in school and everything. I just thought that was like carried over from like the 50s or something. I don't know. I didn't actually think that was a real thing in schools because it wasn't in mine. And then, I learned that, oh yeah, no, it definitely is a big deal in some schools. And so I think to a certain extent, I didn't really know how to feel about an office space, in that, are some of these jokes and some of these things, is this just, is this just on TV? Is just what people experience in an office, or in like maybe if you worked at a law firm or something like that, you might have, that kind of, like, I didn't know how much of it was real and how much of it would be different in an animation studio. And it turns out that no, an animation studio is really just an office job.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of differences, but like, it's boiled down to just an office job.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I think when you're younger, it's like you're walking into Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory or something. But I did go to an animation studio when I was younger, because I was taking these art classes, and it felt like they were working on a cereal ad. It was the Ink Tank, which doesn't exist anymore. But I was just like, oh my God. I said, how do I work here? I was like, I don't know, 13 or something like that. Like, well, you have to grow up. And I said, I'm going to do that. And then I worked the government job.
Yeah. I think the thing about the thing that I have been seeing a lot in young animators when they come in is that they all think that they're going to make decisions. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe I didn't expect that when I came in, because I kind of got, like, if I'm working on someone else's freelance project, I kind of get, the idea. But I think there's a lot of animators who think that they're going to be hired, and then they're like going to make, they're hired for their creative genius or whatever. They're going to make creative decisions, which is like no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not going to make any creative. Can you imagine if you had a team of like 60 animators and they're all making individual creative decisions? You're going to end up with a mess.
Yeah.
Like little things here or there, but don't be surprised if you take a chance on something and then someone says, no. And if you come down to the wire, it's more annoying than helpful if you make a creative decision. Like if you're ahead of the game, right, and you have time, you're in version 1 notes, not version 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and like wherever. If you have, let's say, 4 or 5 rounds of notes before your stuff can be called complete on a show, the time to try stuff is in that, like, let's say second round of notes or something. You want to be pretty quick in the first round. You can try something a little bit better, maybe in the first round, but you want to do that early. Once you get to the end and you do something bigger, or you try something that like historically would not pass, then it just becomes annoying to like the director or someone looking at it going, why would you do that now? Now you have to fix it. And this stuff has to be in like at the end of the day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was definitely smacked to reality immediately of like, don't showboat.
Yeah, pretty much. It's you're not given a thing. It's not an exercise. It's not an animation exercise.
Yeah.
Where they say like, oh, here, we're just going to have this person, they're going to pick up something. And you always see those in behind the scenes on movies where they're like, oh, they were just told, just do this. And like, that is so rare for anything, is just do this and like figure out something. They really only give that to people that they know are going to be, you want to be a hot shot. You got to do, very helpful things and little flourishes here or there, only when given a task. Like someone may say, this character needs to dance. We don't really know what it's going to look like. Here's, we got some poses from the storyboard. We're kind of, doing off of something like that. And then that may give you an opportunity to like, punch it up a little bit. And if you do that well, then you're going to get more shots like that. But in the beginning, just do the work that's in front of you.
Yeah. And
maybe that is the attitude that ends up turning people into where it's like character A and B, where C. I see it in the storyboard. I'm not gonna work. It's like, well, you could have done character A and B while you're waiting on the answer on if C was actually in the shot or not. Like you could have. There's a lot of work that you could have done. It's like, well, no, because you didn't do it right. You didn't tell me, so I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it until you fix it. It's like, whoa. Ugh.
I will say one thing about Freelance was it gave me like, because I of course I went into Our Cartoon President knowing that it wasn't going to last, and there was always like, oh, okay, you'll just hop on to other.
Well, don't say it's not going to last. It's not.
I mean, like... because of the storyline, not that it was,
Well, it doesn't say Our Cartoon Trump.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah. But with any kind of animation project, nothing was always kind of permanent or something. And
well, that's true.
So I just, of course you have the thought of maybe, since you have connections, you'll just hop on to other projects. And other offers did come up for other studios. But knowing that Freelance, it was nice. It was a nice feeling to know that I can still, I could, live off of Freelance and have that life, and that was nice. It was good. And honestly, just to have that be a thing was great. And I said, you know what? Working this freelance job, I think I could do this forever. But then I got a job opportunity and I left it as soon as possible for a steady check.
I mean, it's not just a steady check. It's a really good gig.
Oh yeah.
Say what it is.
Oh my God. Yeah. All right. So everyone, I hope you're sitting for this one, but,
oh my God.
I'm a graphics animator, at the Late Show. And,
The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Yes,
I mean, that's awesome. Like millions of people watch that.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. Of course, it was a terrifying thing. And to some degree, there was a small thing where I was like, man, I feel like I was just getting the hang of the freelance lifestyle. Yeah. And like, it was a little hard to get out of that groove, you know? But, yeah. And because I felt like there is a thing where, you know, you're going to work somewhere for a long time. And then you kind of like, oh no, you know, this is going to be the everyday thing. But then it was also this like, oh, I forgot that when I was doing freelance, oh my God, I don't know if you heard a sneeze in the background. You heard that sneeze in the background. When I was working freelance, there was zero time because there was no hours really, you know? And when you're working, of course, there's like times where you don't know when the job's going to end. But man, when it was just time to like end the day and everyone logged out and everything, and it was just like, oh my God, work is over today. You feel like there's this energy of now I can do my own stuff after this as well. I think freelance did help with balancing different projects, different styles, I had 2 deadlines to finish things at a week, and I managed to finish both of them while doing, you know, because it was freelance, and I think that kind of helped me. It wasn't like I was just sitting down and just waiting for work, and I was working while I was not at an official job. And I feel like that kind of helped me because with freelance too, I did go to sleep earlier and I woke up earlier, you know, and I kept that rhythm of like getting up and working, you know. So
yeah, it's really nice to know that you have that buffer. Obviously, you have that safety net, and it's so strange that the safety net is freelance, but I hit that F real hard in freelance, by the way. I don't know if you heard that. Freelance. But it's nice to know that. I say I feel kind of the same way in that obviously I had established myself in animation anyway, and I have directed things as a freelancer, but working in a studio, you know, I entered as an animator, and then I became a lead animator. Lead animator sounds like a big thing. It's really just like a team captain. Like, you're still an animator. You're just like, they just need a point person to like I didn't have any power or anything. I was just an animator, but they give you like, could you like help run the tutorials and like be a point person to make sure that your team has everything, you know, stuff like that. But like, it's, you know, still an animator. I'm still animating, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, now that I am on this other job, on Tuning Out the News as a animation director, I still animate because, you know, it's a daily animated show. Of course, I got to jump in there and I gotta animate. But there is a feeling of like, I don't think I'm always going to be a director, but just the idea that I was just an animator in a studio. Like, I don't really have that many years in a studio animation. I have like 15 years experience as an animator, but in a studio environment, it was really only a couple before I was put in a position of planning, and I think it's a similar feeling to what you felt, where you were really just starting to get into the groove of things, and I felt like I was just starting to get into the groove of things, and I was like, all right, I'll you want to be able to flex your animation muscles. The fact, you know, when you're directing, maybe it's more of a daily thing, but you don't really have as much time to really get in there and really, you know, really chew into the meat of a shot. You know?
Yeah.
You kind of you need to, you know, put things together and compile things and fix things up. And every once in a while, I'll do something that I know, like, okay, I know I need to take this one, but it's like it'd be like one shot, you know. I know I need to take this one thing because I know I can do it. So I'm still animating, but there's a part of me that really enjoyed just, you know, being an animator and just getting assignments and taking it and putting whatever flourish I could on it if it needed a flourish. You know, it's like the Giuliani and the wine scene. You know, I remember doing that, and there was there wasn't any real directive on the wine, right? And wine is a very particular type of special effect to do, and so it was like, are we going to draw it? Are we, whatever? And it wasn't drawn yet, so I was like, well, maybe I can figure out something in After Effects, and I kind of drew up some beat boards for it, and then did some stuff in After Effects, and he had to get messier as it happened, and it was fun to kind of put that whole thing together. And he's so manic that there was a lot of tiny little acting choices that were going on in between each little moment, even though it was boarded out and all the gestures and everything were there. I still felt like I was making a lot of decisions that went toward the creation of that scene, and that was fun. That was a fun thing to do and to put together.
My favorite part is when he swallows the cigar.
Yeah, so that was another thing, to figure out like how to do that and make it, you have to see the cigar and you have to see it go. It happens so quickly that it's like, how are we going to do this and make it read that he swallowed his cigar? And yeah, it's hard to do that in just like 6 frames.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was stuff like that was pretty was pretty fun, and I think I still kind of do stuff like that now, but it's just few and far between. Not few and far between, but I can't really dig into something the same way that I did before.
Yeah.
So like I think I feel a similar type of way, where sometimes you just want to animate something, but I got I got all this other planning stuff to do, which is good in its own right. I'm not saying that I don't like it. I like it, and I think I'm good at it, but it's there's always something that you kind of give up when you do something else.
Yeah. I'm definitely grateful for the time that I did have doing freelance, because it gave me a time to, like, there were many times where I had to set up my own kind of shots and how things looked, and there's definitely a lot of that being thrown at me at work now, where I know how to set up something now to see how it looks in my head, so yeah. So in the end result, which is best, freelance or regular job? Well, not regular job.
Well, that's really tough. I'll tell you this. The one thing that you might think freelance, you got to be like a people person, which to an extent you do kind of have to be a people person, because you got to be able to do that hustle. You got to be able to sell, right? If you can do that, you don't necessarily have to. In a studio, you have to interact with a lot more people on a regular basis. If that is not a thing that you like to do or are good at, studio job is not for you. That would probably. I mean, obviously, that is the major difference. The major benefit of a studio gig is that it is a weekly, bi-weekly, or 2 times a week, rather. Bi-weekly is an ambiguous term. But it's a steady paycheck of some sort. The other thing is, a lot of times, like if you get a job on site somewhere, they'll take the taxes out for you, so you don't, you have maybe less complicated taxes. There are some studio jobs that will, provide certain benefits, and let alone if you're talking a studio job like out in LA, that's like a union job. Obviously that would carry with it its own benefits. The freelance, and I said this, what is the benefit of free? Because people always ask me what the benefit of freelance is, and I'm going to say it again because I've said it many times on the podcast. It is not because you can make your own hours, not really, because you're not really making your own hours. If you want to hang out with friends on the weekend, they're only off on the weekend. If they're working at studios, their only time that you can hang out with them is when they're not at work or on the weekends. You can't hang out with them during the day when you might want to. Your energy might be high, and you're like, my motivation's very low. If you don't work that day, you're probably going to have to work that night, which means you can't hang out with your friends. They're forced to work during the day.
Yeah.
So they hang out at night, right? So you have to kind of maintain, and let alone if you have like a spouse or a significant other, I mean, you're probably going to need to be on the same schedule as them. But you can adjust your hours easier.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, I wouldn't necessarily say this is a good option for people with kids, but saying like, if you have experience freelancing, a good time to shift away from studio work and to work from home in a freelance situation is if you have a kid, like a new kid, newborn. What do they call those babies?
Oh yeah. I call them smaller people.
Okay.
Miniature people.
I mean, they cry a lot. They demand a lot of attention at very strange times. Sometimes they don't sleep through the night. It's a lot like living with Rob.
Yes. Especially the cry. But when you give me my bottle of Jack, I'm fine.
That's true. I mean, you were teething, so it's okay. That might be a time to... I wouldn't say do that. I wouldn't say freelance if you had never done it before, because there's a certain type of stress that comes with freelancing, obviously. But especially if there's no like paternity leave, and you still need to work as a new father, for instance. That might be a time to work from home. If you're a new mother and even if there is maternity leave, maybe you might want to extend that out because maybe the maternity leave is very short. Working from home or freelance is another thing. And hopefully this work from home order and showing how much work can be done from home and how easy it is, not easy, but how effective it is to set people up from home. Hopefully it will make things like that a bit more conducive if someone's family member needs at-home care or new parents or recovering from surgery where you're fine, you just probably shouldn't be getting on crowded subways every day or something like that, but you could do the work, stuff like that. I think we could probably explore other options that way. So you could do work from home in a studio type of thing and get kind of the best of both worlds. I think that might be something that happens down the line.
Yeah.
But really, freelance is just about freedom with a capital F. It's just if you can get past the idea that you have all these bosses, and more to the point, say like, I am selling something to people and you are doing this freelance work kind of for you the same way a chef does it for them because they enjoy being a chef. As long as you don't lose sight of like why you're doing the thing that you're doing and you could put your foot down at certain points, then freelance would be for you. It's a grind. But if you do not like a project, you can say, I don't like, if someone's treating you poorly, very easy for you to go like, you know what? I'm good. I'm not going to finish this. Let's dissolve the contract and move on. And that's it. And then there you are. You got to have a parachute built into your contract, but other than that, you're pretty free to just go like, nah. In a studio job, you can't really do that all that easy. You can't just go like, I think I'm done. I'm not going to work here. Because as I said about the clicks that like move around from studio to studio, that's part of the game.
Yeah.
You're focused in a small area. If you're doing freelance, you're getting all sorts of wide variety of clients. It's very easy to fire a white chip client.
Oh, my favorite thing that you taught me was just when you say the price and they either just I don't know, just say we can't afford it and then they go away, or they just don't respond.
Yeah, and it solves the problem for you.
Yeah.
It's either you get it, or they just ghost you, and you're like, all right, well that's done.
Yeah.
But there are people who need interactions with other people, so I think that's something where, if that's you need a studio job. You can't do the freelance thing.
Yeah. But I enjoyed both versions of animation work.
Yeah, I mean, I liked work in the office. I think being a freelancer for that long, and just, I don't know, like, there is a part of me that I feel like I am a very friendly person, but it takes a lot out of you to do it like all day every day.
Yeah.
Maybe you just don't want to. But
Like for
yeah,
instance,
I liked working in an office. I thought working in an office was great. I was very excited about it. I soured on it pretty quickly, and then I'm back to kind of liking it. Not necessarily because I'm like working from home, but things shift, and the work that I'm doing now, I like the work that I'm doing now.
yeah.
So I think it's really just you kind of got to know what your personality is, what you want out of the work, what you want out of your life, and how that factors in. And I think we've done a pretty good job of kind of defining the differences. And the funny thing about this is that even though you were working freelance and I was working in a studio, and then we were talking about my experience in freelance, and you didn't really talk very much about your experience in an office, but you've talked about it before, how grating was into work. And really the big thing was I think it was the social interactions, if I'm not wrong. Like the work that you were doing wasn't exactly exciting, but the big problem were the social interactions.
Yeah. I mean, it was something just completely. It's weird because my ability to animate and draw kind of leaked through and benefited me in that process.
Yeah.
But like, especially because what I was doing was setting up sound equipment and all this stuff, and then I had major foot surgery, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you do art. I remember you did that, so you'll do graphic design now." But yeah, it was completely a different field. So you try to have a conversation about Simpsons references, it ain't happening there. It was just like, shut up, you old cartoon boy, or something. It's just
So I shut up, you old cartoon boy. That's another great episode. We should honestly, I think we're coming to the end of our tenure in the Rubber Onion Animation Podcast, and I think when I turn 40, I think we should retool the podcast and call it "Shut Up, You Old Cartoon Boy."
I like it. I like it.
I think that would work out very well. But I would say that is definitely the difference. And I think anyone who's worked at a studio will recognize that the thing that can ruin it the fastest is the people that you work with. If the people that you work with aren't people that you like or get along with, or if the bosses are terrible, or someone who's got any amount of like leverage over you or power over you is making your life live in hell, it's hard to get out of a job. It's hard to get out of a studio job. It's hard to like shift over to something else. And freelance, you don't need to take anything. You're just like, I'm out. And
yeah,
it's a different kind of experience. So you felt trapped in your job, and even you felt trapped also by the benefits. And I think that kind of goes along with, you had a weekly, you had a steady paycheck. You had health care, you had, retirement, you had benefits at your old job. And that was the hardest thing to, like, we talked about that constantly before you made the jump of, okay, let's work this through. How much would you be making? How much is health insurance? How much is retirement? What would you need to make? What would, how, and I think that kind of extra stress on your shoulder, that made you trapped in the job and like scared to leave.
Yeah.
It's like you were held hostage, and in a place where they didn't treat you very well.
Yeah.
But you knew that, like, well, I have my basic life needs met.
Yeah.
And I don't want to leave, if I can't do the same.
Yeah. I definitely couldn't have done 3 foot surgeries with no benefits.
With no health insurance. That's very true.
Yeah. Well, 2 foot surgeries and then one broken toes incident.
I mean, it's not an insignificant thing to talk about when you're talking about healthcare, and people talk about like, healthcare is a right, and you could debate the morals and ethics and yell until you're blue in the face all you want. Some people aren't going to shift over, but you can't deny the fact that sometimes people are just in a job just because they have health insurance through their employer, and that's it. That's like the thing. They can't leave. They can't do anything else, and it traps you in a job that you might not even be very well suited for. And it might be something that is leading to depression and anxiety and pushing you even deeper into a hole that you might not. You might be able to be in a job that is better suited for you. You are in a job now that is much, much better suited for you.
Yeah.
And you were just trapped before. You couldn't make that leap. You could have very easily made that leap if you didn't have to worry. I would think healthcare would be the biggest thing. Like we talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
You couldn't jump until you felt confident that you wouldn't just be completely without health insurance.
Yeah. And for the most part, that wasn't even my care, because I'd rather just, like, I don't care being a broke animator. Like, well, I do to some degree, but family was kind of like, you can't leave that, And,
well, yeah, and also I agree. This is definitely something that you should think about: is how do you replace healthcare benefits, retirement? That's another thing. I mean, I'm not great on that either. But health insurance is a different item. I think the benefits are pretty clear to. I mean, not healthcare benefit. I mean, the positives and negatives I think are pretty clear between working in a studio environment or working in an office versus freelancing.
Yeah,
it's very stressful to work in freelancing. You have to hustle all the time, and you never know. It's very unpredictable, and you never know if you're going to continue having work past a certain point. And it's hard to make a distinction between your work, to have a work-life balance, to make a distinction between your work life and your personal life. It's very difficult to do that when you have freelance. It's much easier to do that when you work in an office environment. That's why I think I enjoyed being an animator, because I had explicit hours that I was, now that I'm a director, it's like there's no hours. It's just like all the time. Yeah. So that's another thing that I'm back to struggling with is the work-life balance. But
yeah, which one of the many reasons why we haven't recorded at all in 2020. But
well, 2021, yeah. The reason, so the podcast that is going to be uploaded right before this one, 274, was an interview that we did in 2020, and then everything just got super crazy and complicated for so many reasons. And you saw what was going on. We were trying to stay up to date with the battle talks and the battle episodes, and it was just one of those where like, all right, we need to take some time and like figure this out. You were applying for the job. You were doing freelance, and then you were applying for the job, and we're just like looking at what is the best time that we could kick this back up again. And it really was like, all right, February is the time that we can do it. I got couple episodes planned. This is one of them. The Battle Talk episode. Got a new website on Squarespace. It's not it's not technically launched yet. I have it. I just haven't moved my stuff over there. I'm trying to make sure I got all my ducks in a row. Mainly my mail. But there's going to be a new site there, a bit smoother. The shop will be a little bit better, and the battle page, the rubberrain.com/battle, that battle page will be a little bit better, and working on something special. Hopefully Rob is helping me put it together. Let's see. But it's I got to be honest, I'm kind of excited about doing more Rubber Onion stuff this year, because 2020 was rough on everyone. Hopefully people can sympathize with that.
Yeah.
With that feeling.
Doing a podcast was like the equivalent of that meme. Well, this is fine and everything's on fire. And it's just like, hey, did you see this animated movie? It's like, no. Yeah. Do you know what's going on?
And now feeling a little bit more stable, a little bit more like you can look into the future maybe a little bit better. Everything was very much like here and now, very concerned about the here and now. And now I feel a little bit more like I can look into the future and be a bit more positive. So I'm excited about getting back to it. The community Rubber Onion is a huge thing in my personal life, my sanity, I like this community. I like who you guys are, and I like being able to do something with you and for you, and it's a good time. I'm glad to come back to it.
I just miss hearing my voice.
That I don't miss. Not my voice. I don't miss hearing your voice. No, I love hearing my voice. No, I don't like listening to my voice, and also because sometimes when I'm going on a rant, I can't always find exactly what I want to say, and so I just keep talking until I find it. So there's just a lot of talking.
Yeah. But no, it's good. I mean, also, like, we also get to catch up because we barely get to at this point with all this craziness going on. So,
well, yeah. I mean, you and I talked a little bit earlier today, probably for 40 minutes or something like that, and it's 8:13 p.m. On February 15th. Which is the day that we're going to have a Battle Talk episode at 9 p.m. So I think we're good. This is a good Freaky Friday episode. Do you think we talked enough about both?
Yeah. And I think we gave positives for both sides of the coin, as they say.
Yeah. I also don't want to make it seem like I don't like people. I do like people. It's just I'm just pointing out that when you work in an office, you don't really have a choice. you have to interact with people, and the people that you have to interact with are there. Luckily, there's a lot of really great people in our office. I'm just pointing out that, like, that could be it could be a risky thing depending on the studio that you're in.
Yeah. Oh, but also, I'm going to end it with this. With Freelance, you could poop whenever you want, and there's always
that's true.
There's always a bathroom available. Unless you're living with people, but it's easier.
Yeah,
it's easier.
It is easier. Yes, your poop time is your time. That's true.
That's always the first question I ask Steven about the situation in the bathroom. You're always talking about the bathrooms. That's always my main concern. How's the bathroom? They don't like that in job interviews. How's your bathroom situation?
That would definitely be one of those things that you write in the margin of someone's resume. It asked about the bathroom twice.
It's my number 2 question.
What's your number 1 question?
It's urinal related. I got nothing.
I didn't have a joke. I just thought, hey, you know what? You set it up. Let's see. All right. Well, anyway, it's good to be back. I think that Rob and I are going to try to do a lunchtime episode also, so we can launch that again this month. That will go up on Patreon. A lot of things to talk about there that are, not animation related, not necessarily animation related. Could be pop culture related, but not necessarily animation related.
Yeah,
we do a lot of just like chatting there. It's fun.
Chat it
fun
up.
Little show. Chat.
Very unique moments on those things.
I don't appreciate you saying things like that, and then I repeat it to keep the things going, and I'm like, I just said chat it up. I hate myself that I said that. I hate that you made me parrot that.
We should rebrand it. Anyway. We should just retitle it to Chatty Daddies.
Oh, God, no. Wait, what was the other one that we said?
Oh, man, I already forgot. Beefy Theater. Oh, Beefy Theater and Old Boy Cartoon. Wait, Old Cartoon Boy.
No, it was Shut Up Old Cartoon Boy. It's the other one. I'm telling you, it'll be 2023. And 2023 we'll switch it. Oh my God, I'll be 40 in 2023.
Me too.
I know, but I'll be 40 first.
That's true. I could call you old man.
So it's worse. That's true. You can call me old cartoon boy. All right, this is fun. Now we got to go and take a break and then come back and watch some awesome cartoons.
Yes.
All right, good to be back. Episode 275. 275. Nice round number for a Freaky Friday episode.
Love it.
Thanks, Rob. All right, bye.